So welcome everybody. That is 5 o'clock and it's time to start our webinar. So you'll all know it's only 12 days until Christmas, and that's us more than halfway through our webinar series. And tonight marks our 6th webinar as part of the SELFIE Digital Schools Academy Awards. And we're going to look tonight at the really critical component, and I suppose it's the whole reason we're here, is of teaching and learning. So if you haven't already seen me, if this is your first webinar, I'm Joanna McLean. I'm one of the team members here at Digital Schools Award. And I join you tonight from a completely frozen Scotland, where it's currently minus 10 degrees, so it's absolutely freezing outside. But we've also got some of the other team here. We've got Aoife and Anna at the side here, and we've also got some of our partners joining us tonight as well. So as you know, one of our goals for the Digital Academy is really encouraging collaboration and helping you share your ideas and resources with each other, whether you're a mentor school, an academy school, or collaborating in a webinar like this. So these webinars are really a great way of hearing from other schools in a way that hopefully inspires and motivates you. So tonight, what we've got here is, if you've seen any of the other webinars, we've got, as I mentioned, we're more than halfway through and we're going through all of the SELFIE categories as well as remote learning and STEAM. And what I should mention is originally our next session, which was on the 10th of January, has been moved to the 17th because some of the schools aren't back until the 9th of January. So that just gives them a bit of time to settle into the new term. And today's session, as I've mentioned, is all about teaching and learning. So I suppose what you could say is that everything we do is ultimately about learning and teaching process. So it's crucial that any enhancements that we think about or have visions about in the school have a really positive impact on learners and on that learning process. So today we're going to hear from 2 schools. We've got Daryl and Stuart from St Mungo's High in Falkirk, Scotland. And before we hear from them, we're going to hear from Lorraine, who's at St Aloysius College in Cork, Ireland. Now, both of these schools last year won a full array of badges for every one of the SELFIE categories as part of their Digital Schools Award in Europe last year. Both have agreed to be mentor schools, and they're both delighted to share their learning and teaching digital journey with you. Now, I should say that we're having difficulty getting Daryl and Stuart on just now, but hopefully they'll be here and ready in the next 15 minutes. And I think you'll find the information that all 3 have got to share with you really useful and inspiring. And as you know, we appreciate how busy you all are, especially after you've been working all day. So we deliberately try and keep these sessions really succinct. We should be finished by past. Both schools will talk for just over 10 minutes. But if there is anything that you want to ask, if you've got any comments or questions, just drop it in the chat and we'll be able to respond during or at the end of the webinar. And if you do have any useful feedback for us, again, please do just let us know. So without further delay, Lorraine, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand over to you to share with us your learning and teaching journey as part of St Aloysius College.
Thanks very much, Joanna. I'm just getting up the screen there. You just might let me know that you can see the slides.
Yes, I can see that.
Perfect. I'm just making them slightly bigger there now. That's okay, is it?
Perfect. That's great, Lorraine. Thanks.
Thanks, Joanna. So my name is Lorraine Mellerick and I teach in, as Joanna said, St Aloysius College in Carrigtwohill in Cork. And we were delighted last year to be awarded the Digital Schools Award, and we're a mentor school this year, which we're really delighted about. So my presentation this evening is going to focus kind of on 3 main areas. I'm looking at the digital learning focus. I'm going to look at some classroom practice. I'm going to look at some accessibility features within teaching and learning for students with additional needs. And then I will take any questions that people have as well at the end. I'd be delighted to answer any questions. So just to give introduction to St. Al's, we are a Google for Education school, so we use Google predominantly. We also do use other devices, but we are predominantly Google. The image you see on the top right of your screen there is our staff teach meets. So they run weekly at the moment, and there is a digital side to them. So you can see one of my colleagues, Louisa Brown, there presented on Canva just 2 weeks ago, and there was effective questioning by the principal, Sean Toomey, the week before that. So that's just a snippet of the idea of teach meets and sharing practice for teaching and learning. The Your Ability sign is a course all our special needs assistants would have done to ensure that within teaching and learning that it is all accessible for all students, and our special needs assistants are upgrading their own professional development. So it's really a whole staff community effort here, coming from the principal right down to our special needs assistants, our teachers, and our students as well. The image you see here is an image from the classroom, and you can see right behind it is our Chromebooks, our Chromebook trolley. So we are not a device-led school, so the students don't have individual devices, but we have trolleys with Chromebooks. We have 4 sets at the moment, and we also have iPads, which I'll talk about later as well. So I suppose my presentation shows that it is possible to be a digital school without a one-to-one digital device. So the next slide here is I'm actually, as well as a classroom teacher, I'm also the digital learning coordinator, and we've designed our digital learning plan. And we've looked at 2 areas, teaching and learning, and we've also looked under leadership and management. And any of our Irish schools would know that's coming from the Looking at Our Schools document. So we had a number of areas to look at. We had Wi-Fi issues, so we had to ensure through the leadership and management structure that Wi-Fi was stable in all classrooms, because without the Wi-Fi, the digital devices are more difficult to use. The use of digital tech, so we aim to increase our usage of digital tech apps by staff where appropriate. So developing slowly, step by step, developing the confidence and the competence to use the digital devices. We've looked at peer observation, so opening up our classroom doors and very much subject department led. If there's a particular app or software tool to use, that we watch each other use it to gain that confidence to bring it back into our own classroom then. We've looked at teach meets, and I've just kind of described them briefly in the slide before, where you're showing you might be passionate about a certain application, extension, and you show that to your colleagues in just a quick lunchtime session. So there are teach meets. Our vision was really important to us, because here in Ireland, we currently have a new digital strategy extending to 2027. So we want to aim big, we want to have real blue sky thinking. And what is the vision for digital tech in our school? So that's coming from parents, it's coming from staff, it's coming from management, and it's coming from the students. Okay, so if cost was not a barrier, what is our vision? Where do we want our digital team to go? And finally, collaboration between our digital technologies team. So looking at different projects, how we can collaborate to share best practice. The next slide then shows an idea that we came up with last year when we were applying for the Digital Schools Award. We have staff digital leaders. This is a very informal agreement, but it's a contact point for people to go to for the different applications that we find we use a lot within our school setting. So some of them are Google-based, some of them are application-based or extension-based, but it's just for any new teachers coming to the school or any teachers that are learning, that is a name and someone they can contact to say, I'm interested in using Cami, for example, and I know I can go to Angelina and ask any questions about that. So it's just I suppose it shows the apps that we use a lot of, and it's a point of contact for people to go to. How did we progress all this in St. Al's? And I suppose we've looked at our last 5 years progression, and I'm sure, like a lot of schools, COVID and online learning accelerated that progression of teaching and learning using technology. I suppose back in 2018-19, we introduced digital skills into our junior cycle program. So where students are taught using the Google software, so Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, how to use them all. Our staff meetings were also, we led CPD sessions on digital technologies. Moving on from that then, Google Drive became our area for all our department work. And Google Classroom really came to the fore for sharing information with students and also for sending in assignments for corrections. And the digital learning coordinator, which is my role at the moment in school, became a leadership position, came an AP position. So I suppose that came from staff, that they saw the need for this. 2021 then, we looked at the SELFIE, and we were engaged with digital schools. We looked at the idea of online exams. Our staff meetings were online, and also all our staff became Google Educator certified. 2021 to 2022, then we had the digital school application and award. Parent-teacher meetings then also moved online and continue online, and we looked at the Urability training. And finally, this year then, we are a mentor school, and we're also involved in digital portfolios and formative feedback, which is a PDSD initiative here in Ireland. So we've engaged with that. We're looking at student leadership, and we're also looking at extracurricular opportunities using digital tech. And we'll build that on into the future as well. So just to mention the policy context here in Ireland, and I suppose you always have to land it back into that. We land it back into the SSC cycle. We look at the digital learning strategy, which would be central for our digital team. And we look at looking at our schools document, which I mentioned earlier, and we look at the two dimensions within that, teaching and learning and leadership and management. So, so hopefully you heard a little clip of that. That is an application called HomeCourt that I'm actually a PE teacher, and that's just an example of how you can use different applications that are subject specific to encourage teaching and learning. And I suppose fun in teaching and learning. If I leave it play on, you'll see up the top right hand corner, they're trying to aim for 600 points here from dribbling, while dribbling and controlling the ball, also hitting the points.
Get 650, get 550, go on, keep going. Well done, get 600.
And I just cut it before the 600, so you can have a guess whether she made the 600 or not. So it's just about, I suppose, using the subject teacher knowledge, because different tools work within different subjects. And we also do look at whole class practice as well. So we look at the Kahoots, we look at the Quizlets, what the booklets, what works as a whole class practice as well. And we do demonstrate for students and teachers, it's important that both are comfortable using the technology, and that there is, it's promoting effective teaching and learning. And finally, we do use phones. So under our acceptable usage policy, phones are allowed in our schools. So in conjunction with management, they do see the benefit of using schools as a digital tool, or using phones as a digital school when required. The picture on the right, you can see our TY students there. The idea of virtual reality, and that's something we're looking into as a school as well, how that can be engaged with more within the digital context. So on to teaching and learning then. And I suppose the 3 pillars for teaching and learning in the junior cycle especially are you're sharing your learning intentions, you're looking at feedback, and I also included the CBAs there, which are the classroom-based assessments. So how do we share our learning intentions? We use Google Slides a lot. We use Canva, which is the presentation, how I made this presentation this evening, and Mentimeter, we would use that a lot as well. Feedback, we currently use Mote a lot for the voice notes. We use Kami for correcting online, and teachers find that fantastic if they're correcting through Google Classroom, or they're asking students to take pictures of their work and sending it on, they correct through Kami. And finally, we comment on the Google Docs, or we comment on the Google Classroom, that area as well. For CBAs then, we look at Adobe Spark, and we use iMovie sometimes, we use Google Sites, we use Google Slides. So they're all different skills that students are learning through those different tools. And finally, the last point is really important there. A lot of time there's student choice within it. And so a lot of these tools are tools, but within that, the students have choice about what they want to use to present their work. And from their digital skills classes, they have the confidence and the skills to use those tools effectively, and so they can pick what one they're confident with. So that's a bit of Irish dance and a bit of Irish music. I saw before I came on, there was someone from Lithuania commented, so hopefully you liked the bit of Irish dance and Irish music there. That is from our TikTok club. And I suppose the extracurricular, we've found huge opportunities to link with digital skills. And TikTok club is new this year. It's student-led. And they are excited by it to create the videos digitally to see how many views they can get, etc. So I just might finish this off so they get their moment to finish off their Irish dance. And that's a lunchtime club, so our students, it also encourages social interaction because they're from 1st to 6th year, and it's a voluntary club every Friday, and they've been really excited by it to create their own content and to choose different themes throughout the different weeks. Our student newsletter is also created digitally, so it's led by an editor, and that's created digitally. Our TikTok club, and also we have a podcast which is called the Female Lead Podcast. So they are all extracurricular opportunities. Finally, I suppose just to mention additional educational needs, because there's huge opportunities within teaching and learning within this. So the image on the left is a reading pen. So we would have reading pens available for students with dyslexia, and they avail of that. So they pop their earphones into it and it reads back text. And we use this because they're used in 3rd level a lot, and it creates independence about reading. The helper bird application we find very useful. The AT, so any assistive technology, we are student-led, so whether it might be a Chromebook, an iPad, a tablet, whatever works best for the students, teachers support that. And finally, the Mercury Reader, we do use that as well. So I'm just conscious of the time, and I know we have another presentation. So that really is my presentation. I just would like to say thanks for listening to me, and I hope I was of use to you. Thanks a million.
Lorraine, that was absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much. And I think everyone will agree that's on here, that being able to actually see the teaching and learning taking place, being able to see and for you to share the apps and the tools that you're using in your school is really valuable. I've written down a few here that I've never used yet, that the Mote and the Kami I haven't looked at, so I've written those down. And I know certainly in PE, one of the things I loved with digital technologies was actually having the learners being able to record themselves and then really analyse and reflect on their own performance and how they could improve. Certainly as they went through school, they could then do that self-reflection and, you know, create their own next steps and their own goals of where they were going. So that was super. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it might be worth putting in the chat maybe your TikTok handle, so that anybody that's on here that maybe wants to follow the students can actually have a look at some of the things that they've done. That would be really useful. And somebody asked the name of the app that you were using, and I saw that it was called Home Court, but if I'm wrong, just if you could change that on the chat. And we've got Daryl now. So Daryl, we've got 9 minutes left. So sorry that we're so rushed. Welcome to this evening.
Hiya.
So as I mentioned earlier, Daryl is from St Mungo's in Falkirk in Scotland. So I'm going to hand over, Daryl, if you're wanting to share your screen, that would be fantastic.
Yep, will do. Okay, so that should be coming up for you now.
That's it. Perfect. I can see that.
Okay, so hello, Daryl Penman from St Mungo's in Scotland, and basically I'm going to talk you through a slightly different approach that we had, because we're very fortunate in Falkirk that our council has set about setting up a one-to-one rollout for pupils and staff with an iPad. So this came about during lockdown, but it was already in process as a council. And on the return from lockdown, we started the process of rolling this out to pupils. And as of the start of this year, now we've turned over and we have every pupil from S1 to S6 has their own iPad. So I'm just going to talk you through some of the headlines of how we have set about trying to integrate an approach that makes the most of the inbuilt features for the pupils. And like many of you, really what we were trying to do is, in Scotland, we have a central system called Glow, which has pupils all have a username for it, and they have, through RM Unify and Microsoft, a place to store all their documents and information. So we tried to keep that as the cornerstone of what we did. And from that, we developed into using Teams quite a lot as a school, as our central platform. And off the back of that, we then, when we had the iPads, thought we still wanted to keep this functionality, but wanted to make as many opportunities for inbuilt accessibility, inbuilt options to embed creativity and more interactive lessons through digital tools as much as we can. So the first example I'm going to talk about with you is this app here called OneNote, which anyone who uses Teams might have noticed that for every team that you make, there is an inbuilt class notebook that you can use. Now, for our school, this has become our bread and butter as our standard tactic, because a couple of key benefits of OneNote in comparison to a lot of other mediums where you can share documents and information with pupils is that each individual pupil has their own unique space that only the teacher and the pupil can see. So for us, our staff were already quite well versed in the habit of sharing documents with pupils on Teams, but this gave us an option so that we could embed this process of pupils basically doing their work, and you can look at it at any time to give live feedback, okay? But from this, it really became a big push for the school to use this as much as possible, because we quite quickly noticed that everything that you type or put into OneNote automatically has Immersive Reader as an option for the pupils from their iPads. So we thought this is a built-in way for us to make sure that we are hitting support for pupils, which was a big percentage for ASM that would benefit from this in our everyday practice. So our first step has been encouraging teachers, and we're quite far down that process. This is now using Teams and using OneNote is becoming quite normal for us, to convert whatever they had as Word documents or PowerPoints into this medium as a standard option. And that way, without teachers having to do anything different, they are giving pupils the option to automatically have those extra features which can help with reading and grammar, or even to translate. Now, secondly, with having the iPads, it gave us an option to create much more rich materials for pupils that steered away from just Word documents and PowerPoints. And it made us able to organise things for pupils much better as well. So on that note, with the iPads, it became quite useful for us, and I'll skip past discussing Canva because I know it's already been mentioned today, but it gave us a few options to change the way we delivered. And what I would say is, if I was to recommend any one app to you, it would be this one here called Explain Everything. It has huge potential for making videos, but also has more interactive options as a whiteboard. And the reason it's really good is for any teachers who have tried before to make videos explaining how to do something for pupils or to explain a concept. I'm sure you've all probably said a few rude words as you mistook and didn't quite nail it on your first take. Explain Everything is basically an app that lets you record, add things in, and then you can go back and add multiple layers to what you do. So this has been an option which myself as a history teacher, I have used to explain different types of skills and different questions that people will answer. It's also been used by our maths teachers currently, not just to explain videos like this to the pupils, but to create videos to support staff on how to support pupils in maths as a wider responsibility for the whole school as a remit. So something like this becomes quite key. If your school does go down the process of looking at iPads as a device for pupils, this Apple Classroom will become fantastic for you, because one of the unavoidable things is pupils will continue to be pupils and will try to at times be a bit mischievous and not do all the tasks. And Apple Classroom basically means that a teacher can choose to at all times see pupils' screens. You can send them work out, so you can push it for them to click and work on. You can also, through this app, create situations where you lock the iPads as well, so when you're ready to have discussions separately. It's just really opened up a lot of mechanisms for us. And what we're finding is that we are moving away from a heavy note-taking approach in many subjects towards we're given the materials and we're spending more time on the higher quality learning because of the fact that we have everything provided digitally, and we're really getting to engage with the big picture ideas much more. To that end, I'll mention one other thing that on the theme of accessibility, this year's the icon for Apple's accessibility, which we found many pupils have now set up, for example, overlays on their iPads, or they're setting it up to speak keywords out for them. What it's really helping us to do is have a focus where we are providing support every day to pupils without it being something that we have to consider and add to. And there's a whole load of ways that we have managed to get more interactive. Oh, I've been hit with the lights, 1 second. More interactive lessons. And if I name just a few, if I name iMovie and podcasts again as inbuilt apps that we've used, well, what we've seen is, for example, right now with my S1s, we're making projects for what's called YPI, which is a charitable initiative. We are seeing that pupils are actively engaging in selling these benefits of helping these charities to win them money through making videos. So we have pupils working in teams, doing tasks like this very regularly because of the process that they have available. And we're working on the process of helping to make sure that pupils have a good level of skills and what they're expected to be able to do. And that really is why we've went down the approach of saying we're not stifling teachers and telling them they have to use a certain app, but we're saying Well, these are the apps that we as standard are going to train pupils how to use, these inbuilt apps in the iPad and to do with the Microsoft suite. So we're going to make sure that our digital leaders and teachers are able to support pupils to learn how to use them. And then beyond that, there's extra scope for teachers to use additional apps for more creativity. And as Lorraine mentioned earlier, Canva would be one example of that, where you can make really nice slides, you can make infographics and all sorts that either as a teacher you can do, or increasingly have pupils make their materials up that way. Another app to name drop that I've not put on this that I really like is, it's called whiteboard.fi. That turns every single pupil's iPad screen very quickly into a sort of digital show me board, where you can see all their answers at once or push information out to them. And that's been great. So iMovie's been used in lots of ways for working to make presentations. And podcasts, as again Lorraine has mentioned, that they've used podcasts in her school, but this is another thing that pupils have been working on. And in particular, we have a media department in our school who have recently set up a weekly podcast series where the pupils are having chances to engage with experts from their field. So they had a director last week that they were talking to from the Scottish film industry, and they're asking questions, and they're getting a chance to experience something totally different. And this is building on a concept that we already have with school radio, as many of you will have, but it's given them many more opportunities for this. And when you say I've only got 9 minutes, Joanne, I actually didn't look at the time at the start. So
Hi, Daryl. Thank you so much. I'm just conscious that we deliberately try and keep these sessions really succinct, because I know at the end of the day it's a lot for everybody to take in. So we really want to have as much of a chance to share what's happening in schools and to really help motivate and engage others and steal some ideas. And I know that both of you are really interested. If anybody wants to get in touch or send emails, if they've got any questions after today, or they think of something, I know you'd be really happy. And Aoife can always sort out and organise the connection there if they've not got your email address. But it was some great points you raised there. Getting children involved with the technology into real world challenges, and working with charities and organisations and businesses. That this is what it's all about really making them see how it applies and the impact that it can have in the real world. So it's really relevant and motivating to them, and also being able to use the technology to get onto the higher Bloom's taxonomy, and using analysis and evaluating and creating, rather than just having to remember content and facts. So thanks for raising those. I'm sure everybody's got some great takeaways from today's session. We're a couple of minutes over, so I apologise for that, but I wanted to make sure that Lorraine and Daryl both got to share their whole presentation. So thank you both, that was wonderful, and thank you everybody for coming along. I hope you all have a fantastic holiday. As I mentioned, we're not back until the 17th, which is assessment on the 17th of January. We hope to see you then. Get it in your calendar and your diary, and have a wonderful Christmas and New Year holiday, everybody. All the best from the Digital Skills Award team. Take care.